Got it. Okay, welcome to the special town council meeting of April 15th, 2025. I want to say that I had a dream about this meeting a couple of nights ago. I dreamed I was in this room and I was the only one here. Got it. So shows you how fast dreams are in the future.
That would have been a nightmare.
In any event, I think we all know why we're here today. It's to listen to and time allows to have some dialogue from the public on how the town of Alton should respond to an opportunity to purchase OLS. There's lots of strong feelings on this topic, and I don't have to tell you that. But I think the decision should not be made on emotions, but on rational looking at the situation. I want to point out that the duty of the town council is to act as stewards of the public interest to ensure that the community needs are met and that resources are used fairly and effectively. So there, on the other hand, when I say that things are done in the best interest of the community, there's no objective measure for that. Okay. So one of the things in the best interest of the community is to support and foster organizations like ACE. And ACE is part of our culture, as I think everybody knows here. And it adds to the richness of our environment. Alton would not be the same if it didn't have ACE. Regardless of the future ownership of OLS, the town remains committed to supporting ACE's mission and ensuring its continuing success within the community. After considerable discussion and considering the pros and cons, the majority of the town council felt it would be in the best interest of the town of Alton to purchase OLS. However, if you attend an OLS event, let's say that for purposes of discussion that the town does purchase OLS, I suspect that if you join an ACE event next year or the year after, you will not be able to tell the difference. It'll look just the same. So these discussions were in closed session about whether it should be purchased or not, and or how much and so forth, which is by law required for real estate transactions of a body such as this. We recognize that this town process has been confusing and opaque, and to the public, opaque to the public, and I wish it wasn't so. But if you have some questions on why that was the case, you can voice them later. But just because the town council felt it was in the town's best interest to buy all this, that doesn't mean that the diocese felt it was in the best interest to sell it to the town. I mean, I'm not like somebody's walker. You would sell it to me. It's up to you whether you sell it to me or not. Yeah. And that's the situation with the diocese. So we just needed to find out whether it would be of interest to sell interest. So the mechanism for doing so was to submit a non-binding offer to solicit a response. And while the majority of the town council previously expressed a preference for buying ACE, I, for one, am open to change my mind if I become convinced that there's a better way. So this dialogue is not a hollow exercise. You're not here just to waste your time. But there are some rules, okay? And one of the rules is that you need to come up to the podium so we can get this exported to Chris and others who are watching. State your name and where you're from. Be civil. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. All get to speak. Okay, everybody who wants to can speak here. But I would request that if your points have already been made by a previous speaker, just give way to the next people in line, okay? We're not keeping score. So multiple statements along the same lines are not needed. And if you don't like the outcome, there is a remedy. Okay? Sign up for and run for and get elected. And John's and Carolyn's and my terms expire at the end of this year. The election is in November, like most elections. The signups are in June. Jen can help you do that. So the other, that's the way a democracy is supposed to work. Okay, so there you are.
Can I make one little correction?
Yeah, go ahead.
We elected to have the closed door. It's not required that we have a closed door. So we deemed that we wanted to handle it in a closed door manner, but that you said it was required.
Okay.
It was, we elected to have a closed door.
All right.
And appropriately so. Perhaps.
Okay, would you like to make would you want to say anything further to start?
I have some comments, but I can wait till the end. Unless you think I should go.
Well, I think I ought to give everybody here an opportunity to take some opening comments, and then I'll call on the first presenter.
Well, if we're gonna do that.
Yeah,
who's up
okay.
first? Doesn't matter then.
I think I said this in the last town council meeting, I mean, the council. Even though I live here, I did not hear about this until February 4th or 7th, I know Ace has known about this since December. But I didn't hear, the council did not hear about this until February, so for me, this has just been a very slow process for us, which is kind of intentional. Government's meant to be slow and methodical, we've like talked about a couple different ways, I have literally thought about this every single day since I heard about this in February. So. Just, I know some of you think that we came in here out of left field, but we have been thinking about this, but we did hear about this a little late for us. So we are still processing this. It's not common that something like this occurs in the town, a building for sale, so. We're just trying to all think it through and do the best thing for the community. And my biggest thing is to continue this sense of community. I honestly feel the last couple of days, our community has been divided, and it's really unfortunate that this has kind of happened. There are some people that have talked to me that didn't feel comfortable coming here because they were afraid that their opinions would get, ostracize them a little bit from ACE events or their friends. So that's just kind of one thing that I'm a little bummed about, that this has kind of turned into the outcome of this, that some people are afraid to come up here or afraid to kind of hang out with their friends over this issue, and I don't think any of us wanted that to happen. We are here to have a community center, like that is my goal. I still want a community center, I've wanted that since I've been on the council, so. Just wanted to let everyone know, that's where I've been on this whole issue.
And I would like to follow that up with, so I'm Carolyn Ansel, and I feel completely vilified by ACE. I love ACE. It is the backbone of this community, 100%. The emotion tied to purchasing OLS is a very different thing than loving ACE and supporting ACE. I proposed to name it the Sarah Gibbs Community Center. Hey, I love Sarah, I love ACE. I just am not convinced that a nonprofit owning one of the only pieces of real estate available in Elter in perpetuity is appropriately owned by a small nonprofit. That being said, that space should remain ACE's home. And I would be forever disappointed if in ACE's anger, they said, we're never gonna use OLS again because we don't own it. Thank you for letting me address the community.
Yeah, I said.
Yeah. No, did you want to say something more, John?
Yeah, I think that this is the existential moment for the charity, and ACE has waited 20 years to own their space. And I think that the appropriate thing to do is for the council to withdraw the town's expression of interest. And leave the church with the opportunity to sell it to Ace and Ace to own their space. What's important to me is that the charity feels supported. And energized and beloved. As they deserve, and the attitude of the charity going forward means everything, I think. Us stepping in front of the charity is an inappropriate use of town funds. I think that we don't have the money to do it, it's gonna drain our capital account down to a few $100,000 from a couple of years ago was almost $2 million. So we're getting a lot of projects done under Chris's leadership. That should continue to use $600,000-800,000, $1 million, whatever the number ends up being, of our town funds to buy this building is an inappropriate use of that money. And I think that he should be allowed to buy the building.
Nothing from you? Okay, I think our first speaker, I would like to call on Sarah.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to say thank you to Jen Clancy and Chris Colley for expediting this meeting. I asked them to do the meeting last Thursday, and they went out of their way to make it happen before the ski area closed, before everyone hightailed out of town. So thank you to them. I also want to thank you, John Byrne, for offering to be the funder for the full cost of Our Lady of the Snows for Alta Community Enrichment. I mean, I don't know what to say besides thank you. Okay, so none of us at ACE or the town or in the community want to be in this situation right now. I know everyone wants to have a good night's sleep. Everyone wants to be happy. In December, ACE as well as the town found out, not the town council, found out that the Catholic Diocese was no longer wanting to own and operate Our Lady of the Snows.
All right.
A lot more people come out.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Boy. Oh, that's a good idea, yeah.
Straight from the small ski event on the slopes. Okay, in December, ACE as well as some members of the town were notified that the diocese no longer wanted to own and operate Our Lady of the Snows. Having Our Lady of the Snows as a home has been a dream of ACE's for a very, very long time. Since January, John Byrne offered full funding to purchase Our Lady for ACE, and we announced our intentions to the town council and submitted our bid to the diocese in February. Sadly, after that, it went all downhill for ACE. The town had many opportunities to be transparent about their actions they were conducting to purchase Our Lady of the Snows. Even at last week's meeting on April 9th, they said no decisions had been made. No decisions had been made. That same evening, I received an email from the diocese stating that they are choosing the town of Alta's letter of intent over ACE's. A decision at some point was made to submit a letter of intent to purchase the building. While the town has not done anything illegal, they are very close to breaking the Open Meetings Act. The true question is, why have they not been 100% transparent on what they were doing? I also have a question that I wasn't on here. Why is it we all are not sleeping over this decision?
Me.
I've been told over and over verbally, and at a great meeting with Roger yesterday, that don't worry, Sarah, everything's gonna work out for ACE. Don't worry, ACE is still gonna be able to use Our Lady of the Snows. What I've learned in the past 3 months, verbal agreements don't mean anything. Todd Collins told me he's gonna give me the PDOT, it's awesome. I want to hear on record that it has been said that ACE, if the town of Alta owns Our Lady of the Snows, ACE's life there will not change. I've been told our rent will not change, potentially. I have been told our lease will not change, our home will not change. Cameron, the town's lawyer, spoke to me before this meeting and said that we will get that in writing if the town ends up purchasing the building. I will make sure that our home there for the community is secured for a very long time. So I thank the town for that. But I do want to say OLS is a sacred place for many. Whether you're driving by, you're attending an ACE event, or you're a parishioner at one of the Sunday masses. I want to ask everyone, does this feel like romantic Alta here right now? Does this feel like the Alta magic that Lee Cohen coined? And I also want to ask the town council, what would Bill Levitt and Bill Lennon think of all this? So thank you.
Okay, Jen is gonna read.
I'm gonna read a handful of names just so we kind of know in order, but it'll be a short stints. And then Brooke is gonna alternate with folks that are online. So.
Can we please have the people online who wanna make comment, raise their hand?
Oh yeah, so if you wanna make a comment online, on the bottom of the Zoom, in the middle, you should have a little hand to raise. If you raise that, then Brooke will know. We'll include you in the public comment. So we're gonna have in this order, and then we'll go to online. So we'll do these 4, Brooke, and then we'll go online. Sound good? So we'll do Connie Marshall, Aubrey Burnett, Rep. Lyerly. Thank you, Lyerly. And then Dan Karasi. And then we'll go to some online. So Connie, you're up.
There's more room up here if you guys are feeling crowded and wanna like make it a circle of trust.
My 3 minutes doesn't start just yet.
No.
I do you know how this one opens? Is it down there? It's, no, it's not open. I never hide myself.
Never saw so many people at one of our meetings.
This is probably an out of town. Yeah.
I got a walker on last hour.
Okay.
All right, my name's Connie Marshall, and I'm not a citizen, a resident of Alta, and I'm not an employee of Alta. But a long time, worked for this area for 44 years. And was a founder of ACE, and I've been managing Our Lady of the Snow for the past 32 years. So I'm kind of an imposter, but not full. So, and my time hasn't started yet. So I'm gonna a little bit more history, because there are a few inconsistencies that I saw, and then just make a brief statement, and now you can turn on the clock. I've been fortunate to be connected with the Our Lady of the Snows since the conversations of replacing the old chapel that was destroyed by an avalanche in 1983 first started. We gathered as a group, actually from both Snowbird and Alta. Our acronym was ASCAC, Alta Snowbird Community Action Committee, in the early 1990s to collaborate with the diocese, the Forest Service, and with the town to fundraise and plan for this next chapter for the chapel. Special use permit was signed jointly by the Salt Lake Diocese, Forest Service, and the town in December of 1991. The efforts by our community group raised approximately 50% of the building costs, so it was a passionate community outpouring. By 1992, a smaller committee was directed by the diocese to figure out how to manage the building once built. I've been on that committee ever since. Most of the participants have either moved away or sadly passed away. Our General Manager Honor Weaver was incredibly involved with this process as well. My role involved into becoming the community contact responsible for all scheduling, all booking agreements, responding to all emergencies, writing checks, paying bills, co-managing, and now managing the difficult snow removal challenges, helping with maintenance, and being involved with capital improvement discussions. Paul Lippert, yeah, I heard his voice, and the retired Father John Norman were equally dedicated to the building, especially with the maintenance and improvements. After his retirement, Paul has still continued to be a passionate steward for Our Lady. While the diocese has continually owned the building, they have not managed anything for the past 32 years, with 2 exceptions for 2 major capital improvements that they funded. So it was hands off pretty much after the initial process happened. So for the past 3 decades, the revenue generated by these bookings that we did provided over 90% of the building's upkeep. Booked events included celebrations, memorials, weddings, business meetings, conferences, retreats, and non-denominational church services, town road meetings, and a long-term seasonal leash with ACE. And a little correction here, in the town's information sheet, it said that ACE had contracted, and the lease came from the diocese, it didn't, it came from the executive committee, which I was a part of. So it was our small committee that leased that space to ACE. Additionally, in the last few years, we've executed a large seasonal lease with the American Avalanche Institute. So now, becoming more relevant, with the diocese decision to sell Our Lady of the Snows due to their struggles with multiple issues in an extremely complicated business of their mission, and with the retirement of most of their folks who had been part of the plans. Some of us began meeting with them as early as 2018, asking for help. The building was getting older. There wasn't a lot of protection for me because I wasn't an entity, I was a person. So for the past 7 years, we've been meeting with them, and they were surprised to find out things about the Our Lady of the Snows, and out of 8 people, only 2 of them had ever been out there. The portable folks who did help were Kathleen Grizzly, who's been a lifelong parishioner of the diocese and a member of the same committee I am, and Paul Lippert. And we have been discussing issues with the diocese that really needed attention. And these discussions increased around 2018 as the complications with maintenance and management were becoming very challenging. And it was a meeting we had in September where I think they decided they were gonna sell it. In fact, I was told that. They just didn't know who the employees were, how employees who drove up here were taken care of, if they got interlodged. And they talked to other people, not to me, to get the answers for that. But I think it became a great opportunity for all of us, and I'm sad, as Paul. It's true, it's the end of a very loving relationship, and I'm not being happy. So, and this is hard. There's clearly no black and white best case scenario for the outcome of this pending sale. It's all of our most highest hope that the Our Lady of the Snows can stay within the Alta community and be represented by a thoughtful owner, be it ACE, Town of Alta, or other entity that has our culture and values at their forefront. Without a doubt, the town would be truly an excellent steward for the future of that space. Because of the background I have and the deep relationships that I can't just wipe away, I favor recommending ACE to be the owner because of their long years of usage and their familiarity with the building and the respect and care shown for the space. So, thank you for giving me a moment.
Hello, I'm Aubrey Burnett. Nobody wants to follow Connie, but I do have some words. I'm a member of the board of directors of ACE. And I'm here today to voice my personal support for ACE to purchase OLS and also to request the town council support for ACE to make that purchase. I'd like to first acknowledge the strong working relationship that ACE has had for many years with the town. It's my sincere hope that no matter the ultimate outcome of the town's decision, the strong relationship can and will continue for years to come. Ultimately, everyone here holds Alta and this community close to their hearts. And I believe that well-meaning people and have sincere beliefs about the best path forward for OLS that differ. With that said, I think our job here today is to convince you the best path forward for the town and the community of Alta is to support ACE to purchase OLS. I feel strongly that the best way to ensure that OLS continues to be utilized for years to come, consistent with its historic use, is for ACE to be the owner and operator of this unique building. It has been ACE's spiritual home for many years, and ownership will allow ACE to continue to control its own destiny and guarantee that the building will only be used consistent with ACE's mission, which is to create opportunities in the arts, culture, and education for the enhancement and well-being of the Little Cottonwood Canyon community. If the town is concerned that at some point in the future, ACE may have to sell the building, ACE has offered and remains open for options for the town to have visibility and certainty in that scenario. While this council may have a genuine and deeply held belief and intention that they want to preserve the status quo and to continue to support ACE as the primary tenant of OLS, I think it's important to acknowledge that space can be used for many uses. And we deeply understand the limited nature of real estate in Little Cottonwood Canyon. In the future, this council will evolve. There will be new members with new beliefs, and the town's economic situation will be different in the future, hopefully for the better, but potentially for the worse. I think it's important to note ultimately that optionality for the town is an existential threat to ACE. Without OLS, ACE's programming simply cannot be replicated and would have to be reduced. ACE hosts over 100 events per year at that building. And simply, there's no other space in the town that would serve its same purpose. If the council believes in these contributions of ACE to the Alta community and wants to do their part to ensure the future of this programming to support the Little Cottonwood Canyon community, I would strongly encourage you to support ACE's bid to purchase Our Lady of the Snows to help preserve this unique organization's future, while also saving valuable taxpayer dollars that can be utilized better for other critical town needs. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Would you say your name again? I'm sorry.
I'm Aubrey Burnett.
Okay, Aubrey, thank you, Aubrey.
Okay, next, Jen.
That was well said.
Brett. And then Dan.
Wait till they get, go down the stairs. Thanks for coming.
My name is Brent Lyerly. I've been a resident of Alta, registered to vote here since 2020. It's cool to see so many ski boots at a town council meeting. I think the turnout here of multiple generations of passionate Alta skiers suggests to me that this actually is Alta magic. It's really cool to see everyone coming in from the Fun Bay, older generation. This is awesome. I think it is Alta magic. You asked us not to be redundant in our thoughts, and a lot of questions have already been answered for me, but in your staff report, under your pros, under your commitment to cloud collaboration, the town states the town is committed to establish shared use agreements to support community and local initiatives. I'm here to support ACE, but I see that you may vote to not go with ACE and take it yourself. And so I would hope that the town is willing to enter a long-term lease agreement with ACE that would allow them to continue a similar pattern of use that they've had. And so if ACE can't have the building, I think the best thing we can do for them is to make sure they can have the same use and have that in writing for them. In the town's cons, under need for transparent public process, It mentions, given the significance of the decision, will there be public hearings, financial disclosures, and a clear plan for how the town will operate OLS? And I think this is really the tough thing here is it doesn't feel transparent, and I think that's why ACE and so many of the community is upset, is the lack of transparency. And so I think that's the hard thing to overcome, and that I hope that you guys can work with ACE in communication. So I would like to urge you to have more back and forth before a final decision is made. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you.
Hey, everybody. I'm Dan. Yeah, I've been a skier at Alta and community member of this, of Alta for about 5 seasons now. And, I love this place. I believe in a sense of community, and I believe that, the community that we have here is really tight knit and really beautiful. And I would like to see the prolonged success of that community here at Alta. I think that ACE has done a phenomenal job doing this. I mean, give it up for Sarah here. Give it up for Sarah. Alta would not be Alta without ACE. And I think that what you've created here is really truly remarkably special. Yeah, I recently started a brand that ACE has been a huge inspiration for. And yeah, I would love to just see ACE succeed in this. So it seems to be an agreement between ACE and the town that this space should be used as a community center, which I love and respect. Like I love how you guys are on the same page with that. In my opinion, this seems to be a question of intention. After ACE has shown us their true colors after years of providing so much to this community. They've really shown us what they're here for. They're here for the community. ACE is here for the people, and they're here to make this place a better place. The town of Alta, I love this town. I love this place. This is proven to be a home for all of us. This is why we're all here. Like, this place is amazing. Yeah, I love that the town is wanting this to be a community space. I love that. The question in my mind is if we both want this to be a community space, all of us here. The question that I have is, which aligns with everybody. The question that I have is, why not have ACE have this space? I think that a lot of this comes down to financials, and if ACE has a good rent from the town of Alta, you know, I respect that. But why not let ACE have this space where they can allocate funds elsewhere and they can provide additional things for this community? We all want this to be a community space. We all want this to have a shared vision. We all want this to be for the community. And I want us all to be on the same page here. I want this community to come together. I don't want to be fighting about this. Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So, Claire Chapman, Paul Moxley, and Elsa Coyle is running. So we'll start with Claire.
Can I ask you to hold up a minute? If I can't hear you.
Ski boots. Yeah, the ski boots.
Thanks, Dan, for bringing them through.
We didn't count on this in the timelines.
Right. That's why we got all the time we need.
Okay, so we have Claire Chapman and Paul Moxley and Elsa Coyle going next. We'll start with Claire. Claire, you can go ahead.
Hi, I'm Claire Chapman. I started as an employee with Alta 10 years ago and have also been an employee for ACE. So I just want to touch a little bit more on some of the logistical aspects here. We know that ACE has a history with Our Lady of the Snows that's not transactional, it's relational. They have helped Our Lady of the Snows to grow, and in return, Our Lady of the Snows has helped ACE to grow. A central function of democracy is evaluating the appropriate allocation of responsibility and funding, so determining when government action is necessary and when community-based or non-government organizations are better positioned to address specific needs. We know that ACE does a wonderful job at supporting the community's creativity, connection, and mental health, which is really vital in a seasonal area, mountain town like Alta. ACE has proved to be a really good steward for the building, just as they have for the community. Considering that they have this funding from a donor and they know how to caretake the building, I think that will be like a great support for the community. And I know that this has been touched on a little bit, but how does the town envision that this purchase will benefit the residents of the town versus ACE purchasing it? And what future projects may be inhibited because they don't have the funding needed? It was initially said decisions shouldn't be made based on emotions. I completely agree. But I do think that the town and the town council should be prioritizing public trust in their decision making. That has already been at fault with the lack of transparency thus far. So with the trust kind of already beginning to be lost, how does the town consider that the purchase of the building will impact this public trust and community engagement going forward? Thank you.
Paul Moxley?
I'm new.
Paul?
It's muted.
There he is.
There you go.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. I was on the council for a substantial period of time, and then recently the mayor was gracious enough to appoint me to the planning commission. And I've been a resident of Alta since the 2000-2001 ski season. Interesting conversation. I've already learned a lot, and thank you for the other speakers. I haven't been privy to the conversations of the council about this process. And I'm not questioning the process itself, because obviously when the town decides to purchase an asset, there are certain aspects of it which are private, and I understand that generally. My question is, and I'm not presently all that familiar with the economics of the town, and a lot of the information I have has been based on third parties providing information to me. And so I'm not sure about the expenses of the town or the propriety of spending a substantial portion of the reserve funds for this purchase. But I kind of look at this in a different way, which is, what is the role of government? And and as I understand the use of the building, it's very limited, has to be used for ecclesiastical purposes or nonprofit purposes. And it's not clear to me what the value is to the town for acquiring the church, because obviously there are other resources available for meetings and whatever. And if I'm a member of the town or a citizen, or I'm voting or paying my taxes, do I want the town or the government to make decisions for me about how to spend money for charitable purposes? I don't think so. For example, in some religions, they require that you give them a certain amount of money, and then the church decides what they do with your charitable funds. I'd rather decide for myself how to spend the money. So it's not clear to me it makes a lot of sense economically or philosophically to acquire it. And they're my thoughts on the matter. Thank you.
Am I unmuted?
You are.
All right. Good afternoon, all, and thank you all for coming together for this event and giving opportunity to voice. A couple of things I'd love to share some history and give a big nod to Joan Huber, who was the one who brought the town together, the Forest Service, and the Catholic Diocese in order to have that piece of land. Thus, the building was built with the monies that were raised. And part of the agreement at that time, and this is back in the early 90s, was that it had to be used for community activity in addition to anything that the Catholic Diocese allowed. Upon that, my little brain decided that this was the place to start something. I'm the visionary. I'm the one who wrangled my husband, Bill Lennon, into this activity. People like Connie Marshall and many others in the community stepped forth when I asked to create a board of sorts in the long run. Something also that was said earlier today was a mention and a nod, no doubt, to Miss Sarah Gibbs, who has taken this organization above and beyond. Yet, I want to remind you all that Sarah will not be around forever as the town council members and mayor. Those positions will change. About 5 or 6 years after the organization was started, I decided to leave the organization because it was being called mine and Bill's organization. At that time, I recognized its own entity and that if this nonprofit community organization was going to succeed and have a life of its own and become its independent entity, I had to go away and see who would step forward. That happened. There were some very rough years. People kept coming forth, and we have what we have today above and beyond my wildest dreams, quite honestly. And as you all say, it's an integral part of this community, Alta, which I no longer am a part of in the same way. After spending 40, 45 years around there. So I just, want you to think of ACE as its own entity with amazing people who want the job that Sarah has and the other people that she pulls in to help her. She has set a template that will be followed, and people know ACE for what it is, and they want to become part of that regardless of who is actually making those decisions up top. So I'm going to trust that she's going to continue to leave it in good hands. And I do wonder, you've all brought up good points about the extra dollar amount that the town of Alta will be spending when we're always looking at the water situation in Alta. And there are other issues with our Olympics coming to Utah. So I'm asking the town of Alta to be very mindful about where they ought to be putting their energy when there are people who will take care of Alta community enrichment. And they will make sure that that building and everything else about the programming will continue to go forward and help the young people who arrive in Alta when they're 18, 19, and they have these great other skills going on other than skiing, and they come together and they provide love and entertainment and mental health support for one another. and they add to the guest and the employers that they are working for because their attitude is positive all the time, even when the ski conditions are not the best. They have things to look forward to and they feel a part of themselves because they get to contribute and they get to learn. So I really just know that the council members and the mayor, they are going to be changing positions over time. I would love to see Alta Community Enrichment be the ones who end up with that building, because as I recall, over the last many decades, the town of Alta has had numerous master planning. And a lot of times when we've come together, there was always an independent location allocated for ACE in those plans. Here is a huge opportunity for that to be realized without disturbing any more landscape that we so beloved about Alta. So please keep that in mind. Please do your job as far as knowing fiscally responsibility and allow this great nonprofit to continue to work and be the stewards of that piece of property. Thank you.
Sarah McMath.
Who is it again?
Sarah McMath.
Those, yeah. Yeah, I fear from those things.
How about now? Can we hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sarah McMath. I am jumping on here. I'm at work. Sorry for the looseness of this all. I heard a lot of the meeting and I don't want to be redundant because I know that is something that we had talked about. I've been a member of this community for 9 years in the capacity of working for Alta Ski Area. My first job was working the summer road when Town of Alta was in charge of that program. So I've been able to see what the Town of Alta and the ACE together can do when their forces are combined. I think community is a huge thing in Alta. That's what attracts, I think, everyone sitting in this room to Alta was the community and culture. And like many had said, I think I'm also questioning why these funds are being allocated, these taxpayer dollars are being allocated to something that seems like it could be handled very camaraderie with ACE. And why are these tax dollars not improving other buildings around the town? Maybe one that you're sitting in right now, maybe others that you have seen. I would just like to once again just support ACE, support what they do for this community and how much it has changed my life, knowing that there is a community enrichment program available to anyone at any time. Having a space opens up that opportunity even more. To hold a space, to hold a building where you can come and whenever you need, whatever kind of enrichment that might be. I just want to share my passion of how much I love ACE and how much I love this community. And I hope that we're all doing the right thing and what is best for the community and not just for what we think is best right now. The community will last forever. The board will not. Other things will not. So why not invest in something that will be around forever? Thank you guys for your time. Have a great day.
We have the next four speakers will be Megan Oliver, Evan Tobin, Christopher Barnes, and Andrew Gardner.
My name is Megan Oliver. If you guys don't know me, I am the current events and marketing director for ACE, position I gladly held for nearly 2 years. Many of us have made really good points about the logistical part of it, and I'm an emotional person, so I might cry. So I'm gonna get the personal side of it a little bit. Well, I've mostly remained on the periphery of the situation with OLS, supporting Sarah when I can, participating in our board meetings. I want to emphasize that I, along with many of the other members in our community, have been deeply affected by the town's recent decisions. And frankly, the impact is real and it feels very personal. I didn't come to Alta for skiing, for those that know that. My first experience in Alta was actually with ACE. I found ACE shortly after moving to Salt Lake City during the pandemic when I was seeking community and connection. At my first ACE event, I was met with nothing but kindness, inclusivity, and support. And when later I began creating my own jewelry, ACE became like my first opportunity to actually share and sell my art. An incredibly vulnerable and courageous step for any emerging artist. At a time when I was struggling with my mental health, leaving behind public school teaching and trying to find a new career, ACE became a lifeline. It offered me purpose, direction, and belonging that Sarah and ACE just didn't just give me a job, it gave me hope. And honestly, I don't know if I'd still be here without that. And I think a lot of us can say that just about the things that ACE have done for our community. And my story isn't unique, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people who could say the same. ACE is a soft landing place for people who feel lost. It's a refuge from stress of the world. It's community, it's love, it's essential. Over the past 2 years, I've watched Sarah and our board respond to growing need for connection, art, and education. And when the opportunity arose to purchase Our Lady of the Snows, it was clear that doing so would allow ACE to expand the mission and serve the community in a deeper and more meaningful way. That's why I'm frankly disappointed about the lack of transparency from the town. I know for a fact that Sarah and ACE has operated with openness, honesty, and integrity throughout this process. Yet many of the statements made at town council meetings seem to contradict the actions being taken behind closed doors. I urge the town to truly listen, not to just Sarah, but to many of the voices in the community who believe in what ACE stands for and what it offers. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about a building. It's about people, it's about purpose, and it's about preserving a space that has changed and even saved lives. So I'll leave you with this question. Do you want your legacy to be the potential demise of ACE in pursuit of a building for which, I mean, you've kind of stated a purpose for, but still it's not super clear to me? Or do you want your legacy to be the town council that truly listened, one that supported its community, chose growth, connection, compassion over control? Thank you for your time.
Okay. I'm Evan Tobin. I think I'm next to speak. I've been in Alta. I first came out here in 1978, I believe it was. Alta as a town that you guys serve on the government of wasn't formed until 1970. I bought here in 1991. I attended and donated to the fundraisers for Our Lady of the Snows, which was also being billed as a community center when I donated money to it. And that was my understanding, that the special use permit for OLS is for use only as a community center, as somebody else, as I believe Paul also spoke. And so it really doesn't serve any function to the town of Alta, except as a community center, and because that's all you're really allowed to use it for. ACE was formed, as you heard, by from Elza, by her and Bill Lennon in the early 90s. I was recruited by Sandra Conger, who was then president of ACE, I believe it was around 1997 or 98, during ACE's first NEA grant, which was a project called Rebuilding the Front Porch of America. I got involved with ACE and I came with Sandra. You know, that's when Elza had stepped down and she was still on the board, but she was trying to get away from ACE and she wanted to pass it over to the next generation. I was willing to take on the task as a treasurer and I became the treasurer for the next 3 years. We got their books in order. We got the 501c3 status for ACE and made it an official nonprofit. I then served a term as treasurer and I served on the board for about 10 years after that. During my tenure as treasurer, or maybe it was when I was president, we hired Sarah Gibbs. And she has been the best possible executive director of ACE that we could have possibly ever hoped for. ACE continues to recruit new blood. I was happy, like after I got my double hip replacement. And I missed a couple advisory board meetings that I was asked to step down, or I was just gone on because ACE continues to thrive. It has an organization, it gets the youth, it gets people. In the town of Alta's 27th year of existence in 1997, in March of 1997, there was a town proclamation by Mayor Levitt. And the town of Alta created the Alta Arts Council, doing business as Alta Community Enrichment. So this organization that you're competing against for this building is an integral part of the town. It's the heart and soul of Alta. It is our community. Its place is that building. Why you're competing with them and why you drove the price up. Like, you know, ACE had to come back with another offer to the diocese because you guys were competitors. I don't understand why, and nobody has said why the town of Alta wants this. You know, we have a magnanimous funder who's giving money and buying this and endowing Alta Community Enrichment with a home for life. It's on Forest Service land, so it doesn't have any kind of real estate value. It's, people talk about being a real estate investment. It is not. It's on a special use permit. It's only for use as a community center. And if the town of Alta buys it, it's a burden on the community. It's a burden on the taxpayers. It needs more funds to operate and do maintenance. The funds that ACE is currently paying as rent, that's what's gonna supply the maintenance. As opposed to bidding against it, if you withdraw your letter of intent and we can get back to the initial bid, then any additional funding that was being given could be used for the maintenance and the rehabilitation of the building and added to the endowment of ACE, and this can live in perpetuity. And with all the new blood coming, it seems like a no-brainer to me. I don't understand. My question to the town of Alta is, why do you want this? Why do you want this burden? I just don't get it. In my tenure, we got a second NEA grant. In my tenure with ACE, we got a second NEA grant, and that NEA grant was to build a community center. It was to design a community center. And it was actually, the plan was to expand this building that we are in right now. And to move it up, I'd like to have an extension up the hillside. And this is when the fire station still existed. We had a very good plan. And there were Forest Service restrictions. I think Paul Moxley actually went and presented something to Congress and tried to get some kind of land grant. And get some kind of exchange. I don't remember the exact details, but nothing happened with that plan. You know, we needed a community center, we wanted it, but that was 20 years ago now, and it didn't happen. A few years ago, the town spent an enormous amount of money doing another plan, coming up with 5 alternatives that people voted on. We spent enormous amount of efforts, and still, there's no new community center. This is our community center. It was granted by the Forest Service. We have it. Please, I just implore the town of Alta, withdraw your bid and let the diocese sell it to ACE and let ACE be endowed forever and let ACE continue. That's all I got to say.
My name is Christopher Barnes. I'm a Alta resident voter, live over in Sugar Plum Village. I want to start with a little bit of gratitude. Certainly for the thoughtful comments I've heard from everyone here today and the passion that's represented for ACE, for Alta, for the town council, and for this community. I also want to appreciate the town council and the mayor. This is a tough job. In other communities, I've been on school boards and on planning commissions, and it is oftentimes a rather tedious job punctuated with terrifying public meetings. So I thank you for standing here and representing our community to your best effort. Thank you. I also want to appreciate ACE. I've been in town for a long time, but I certainly understand and see how powerful it is to have an entity that has survived over 20 years, continuing as a small nonprofit. It is not an easy endeavor. And I come from that world of nonprofits and backgrounds, and I'm duly impressed by all that ACE does and has done in the past. And I appreciate ACE's need for certainty, and in particular in controlling Our Lady of the Snows and its destiny, and where that passion and desire comes from to take ACE and what ACE can contribute to our community to the next level. I also deeply appreciate the town's fundamental need for permanent certainty of controlling ownership beneficial to the town with regards to that physical space and place, right? Politics is the art of compromise. And I agree with much of what I've heard today, but I have one simple solution or suggestion. I really hope that the town will consider and seek to be a nominal minority monetary participant, say 10%, in exchange for scaling right or first refusal. That if tomorrow, for some reason, ACE goes out of business, you have to, the town would have to pay it at market value, and in 15 years, it would be $1, right? So that over time, right, we've ensured that certainty, and as long as ACE's mission stays the same, continues to offer programming and be fundamentally a community organization, doesn't turn into a property developer or something weird, that it can then be part of our community indefinitely. Hopefully, finding that middle ground with both entities, ensuring that both ALS and ACE perpetuity and future. Sorry. So I hope you can find the middle ground and save some money in the process and seek out the win-win solution. We seem to be living in a zero-sum world. It'd be rather joyous to be a participant in a small community of a solution that was not zero-sum, that was fundamentally win-win. I think it exists. Thank you for your time. Would you say your name again?
Evan Tobin.
Okay, thanks, Evan.
Yeah. My name is Andrew Gardner. I moved here when I was 6, 87. I've been skiing at Alta since. When I was 19, just turned 19, I moved to Alta. I've worked at the Peruvian Lodge since 2000 in the ski shop. I've managed it since 2011. Back around 2003, I kind of delved into this little film company I had. The town of Alta gave me a business license to operate a movie production company. It was amazing. They would do our events at the OLS. And I think most of what I want to know has been answered, but I just don't understand why.
Yeah.
It seems like, you know, what Evan was saying, everything, I don't understand why a nonprofit can't own that property and operate out of it. I don't understand why we would use all the reserve money of the town, or 75% of it or whatever it is, to buy that building. So I just want to express my support for ACE purchasing the building and ask the town to withdraw their bid. Thank you.
Randy's my favorite skier.
Brooke, do we have anybody online? Anyone? Okay. Margaret Burke, Jerry Oyama, Jerry Weil, Dave Richards. Just to let everybody know, you wrote down no or maybe. I held off calling out your name, and we'll open it up at the end once I have all the yeses. That's what people that want to comment, so that you can kind of continue to think of things. That's the second. So, Margaret Burke, Jerry Oyama, Jerry Weil.
I don't know what you're gonna say. Well, it might be exciting at your house.
It will.
Let the excitement continue.
I'm gonna be different than the native speakers, Margaret Burke, resident. And that is, I'm not gonna take a position. Thanks, you speak up, sorry. I'm not going to take a position. My position is ACE is an integral part of this community.
It would not exist without the town of Alta, but nor would the town of Alta exist without ACE. It is a community, and I think all of us need to remember that the community is made up of disparate parts, and yet we are all together. So speaking as somebody said earlier about the age of this group, I am one of the older people here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Like brief for a lawyer.
Yeah, yes, isn't she?
I thought she was a rocket scientist.
That's me.
Okay, next.
Actually, I don't have any point.
No, wait a minute, you gotta come to the podium, please, Jerry, but is Jerry next, or, okay,
I don't have anything else to add to this.
okay?
And all the points I had in this letter have already been brought up. And I'm gonna post it on the town website so people can read it. And I just have one question. How often has the town of Alta actually used that space in the last year?
I think of two in the last week or, last month.
The road meetings.
The road meetings and the open house on, the Shawn's Estate.
Well, I'm sure that ACE would welcome you to come back there. Anyway,
Right, ACE used it 150 times. In the
What's that?
ACE used it 150 times in the last year.
Name's Gary Weil. We have owned the department in the Blackjack since 1994. I've been a registered voter here since 2014. I can't really add much to what's been said, but there's a couple of things more on the emotional level that I wanted to respond to. I don't think I've ever witnessed that kind of tension that I experienced when I sat down here this afternoon ever on the Alta, and I've been involved with a number of different projects. I was on a committee to make a recommendation about the community center, the last dismal effort that we made. And I can tell you that to do that in a way that keeps everybody happy is damn near impossible. And so it's painful for me to see and hear that this is causing the kind of hard feelings. And I would just encourage you, to try to come to some agreement that satisfies everybody.
Thank you.
Richard. I've been a resident of the town of Alta for over 20 years. I was raised on the hill up here. I served on this council for 6 years, back in the days of Levitt, Curry, Moxley. And I took over my seat from Bill Lennon after his unfortunate passing. So I appreciate the difficult position you guys are in. Tough luck, you put yourself there. You ran for office.
Yeah. You're always
so. I'm gonna try to keep this very pragmatic and keep the emotion out of it for myself. And I only have one comment. In my eyes, this is an inappropriate use of town funds. This purchase may be something you want, but it is not something you need. Okay? You need a new police station. Desperately. You need to provide essential services, which consists of a water system, which is old and failing. Okay? You do not need OLS. ACE, on the other hand, needs a space. They need it, they can fund it, they should be allowed to have it. Save town money for essential town services. That's what you guys, that is your goal. That is your job, town services. Okay? They should not be spent on this cause. As a taxpayer in the town of Alta, I ask you as my representatives, not spend what basically is our money on this purchase.
leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then after that, anybody that's the end of the people that signed up to speak, so, if you wanna maybe kind of, you can form like a little line over here.
I'll be short and sweet. A lot of people who knows me as Smokey.
Will you say your name again?
Dennis McGarrell.
Thank you.
Or Smokey. But I'm 50, I just completed my 50th year skiing in this canyon, so I've been here a while. I'm one of the older people too, but I'm here to support Ace and Sarah, Connie, and Paul. They've been great stewards of that building over the years. I'm a parishioner there, so I'm very close to it. I try and help Paul there periodically, but like I say, they've been a great steward. And I'm a resident of Cottonwood Heights, not Alta, but spent a lot of time here. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thanks.
I think we have more.
Yeah, we have a couple more. Neil Howard and then Taylor.
Thank you for having all of us today. My name is Neil Howard. I am a longtime community member and seer of Alta. I am not a resident, but I have been a community member for the last 29 years out of my 33 years of life here. And I believe most of my talking points have been covered by everyone else, but the one point that I don't think has been brought up and I would like to pull attention to is last week's April 9th meeting on reasons for why the town of Alta would like to purchase it is item 9, land ownership considerations. The land underneath OLS is owned by the US Forest Service and would not transfer with the building sale. However, all town-owned buildings on US Forest Service land were later transferred to the town at no cost aside from administrative efforts. While there is no guarantee, it is far more likely that the US Forest Service would transfer the land to a government entity. Going back to the points about a lack of transparency and trust, to me, simply that this item has been listed as a reason as to why the town wants to purchase sheds some suspicion, or if nothing else, a lack of transparency. Again, going back to why the town would like to own this building when it is the main purpose of owning it would be to continue the community efforts that ACE has already put forward. And that is all I really have to bring to the table at this time. Thank you.
That is a really cool shirt.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kaylee. I'm 25 years old. I've lived here my entire life. I'm a full-time resident. I've lived here my entire life. And I just wanted to come and express my support for Sarah and her team. I've known Sarah my entire life, and I have full confidence that if she were to run this building and if the nonprofit were to buy it, it just makes a lot more common sense than for the town to buy it and be put in, per se, like financial crisis or something like that, tax incentives or something like that. I just feel that it's really important that we echo everything that everybody's been saying, and that we trust. Question is, do we trust Sarah and her team and the nonprofit to ensure the longevity of ACE? And I think the answer is yes. The other question is for you guys, are we buying it out of fear? What's going on? Is there integrity at heart with the purchase of the town buying it? And I don't think so. I truly don't think so. I don't appreciate, the maneuvering of this at all, in part from someone on the team here. I don't appreciate the maneuvering of it at all. Someone who lives here their whole life and probably will for the rest of their life. So thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate all the time that you guys take. I know how much work it is, every Wednesday, every other Wednesday. I know how much work it takes. So thank you so much.
My name is Ann Gamblemeyer. I'm a mountain girl raised in Boise and Salt Lake City. I've owned a home on the Gulf Shore since late 90s. Some of you may know my son Masa or my brother Winston Gamble, who came to the ticket office, or my son's been up here through the years as a free rider back with Neil and many of the wonderful young people who are part of this community. The one thing I haven't heard mentioned this afternoon is our spirit world. And that is what this church space, be it religious or community, has provided to this community in many, many ways. I didn't even hear the fact that there was a school there for many years with Deb teaching some of the most wonderful young people in this town. So what I see here is that we need the spirit world to be nurtured and cared for. And I don't believe that is the job of the town. I believe it is the job of the community center, the arts, and the celebration of all the creativity and human need. And so I would ask that the town council take that into very serious consideration and look to the generosity of the opportunity to have a spirit center for this community. So thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, my name is Paul Lippert, and I think probably read my post, and I hope that's why the turnout was so good here. I want to talk to you about my vision. And my vision is that the town rescinds on its offer to the diocese, backs ACE, and then in the sign of community support, helps them maintain funding from the state or federal government to make LLS a green building. Replace the patio and stairs which need it and heat them. Sorry, Creighton, you'll be out of the job. But I used to do it by myself, now they hire 3 people to do it. And I want to tell you that this wish, last night when I cut my birthday cake, that was my wish. Roger, make an old man happy, and make my wish come true.
I'm Creighton Hart, and I used to have stairs jump for many years in this building. Into my office, I walked up and down those stairs, and those stairs are about to fall off this building right now. It's quite dizzy if you stand there. We have a serious safety hazard that hasn't been addressed. That's my first thing. If you're gonna take care of a building, you should take care of it. That's your priority. I don't live in town. I have lived here in town. And I don't have a son, but hypothetically, if I had a gay son and he chose to try to have a marriage in that building, would he be able to do it? Would he be able to display pride flags or say, I made the Alta snowflake and the pride flag? Would I be able to sell that at the ACE art meetings? I'm just kind of curious. I think by the town owning it, it creates some limitations that would really show handcuff maybe or disallow certain things within the community. Would a religion be able to rent it on a Sunday if they chose to use our space? Or would that not be prohibited or allowed under ownership of a town? I hear from some of the community members that ACE might not be adequate or strong enough to hold the building, but if there's no mortgage on the building, if the building's outright owned, what's your worry about the building disappearing? I mean, is it like an alien's gonna come and take it, or they can't fund it because, I mean, if we have a wonderful benefactor that's willing to support our community at depths beyond our beliefs, almost deeper than our snow, why not allow that purchase to happen? You know, transfer the building. If you're afraid that ACE isn't gonna be around, the building can be put in a deeded restricted trust that's held in perpetuity. I'm a real estate agent, I'm not trying to advertise it. Those are things you can do in a deed, in building and deeds, you know, there are things that you can do. So I think those fears, while they're out there, you know, they can be addressed, and that's the communication we're having right now, and it's open, and I appreciate you guys being here. And sometimes it's just easy to say no. Thank you, guys.
If someone wants to support the town of Alta, please do. Please
Yeah.
don't feel like you're gonna be shunned. Like Ace and myself, I'm heartbroken to hear that people told you that, please. So please voice your opinion if you wanna support the town.
There are some written comments that were submitted that are, I find quite very articulate. And perhaps someone could read the.
If one written comment is read, all of them need to be read, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them.
Okay, but there are people who I think are afraid to come and speak today.
Post them, everybody's, let us read them.
Yeah. Okay, my name is Sarah Snedeker. I'm a Salt Lake resident, but I've been in the Alta community for a long time. I'm the current president of the Alta Community Enrichment Board. I'm also, I hate public speaking, so bear with me. I'm also a former ACE employee and a former Alta Lodge employee. My grandfather designed the Alta Lodge, so been in this community for a long time. I do just want to point out one thing that hasn't been stated yet. A lot of my thoughts already have been vocalized, but in the board meetings, when it was first presented as a potential possibility for ACE to acquire Our Lady, the board talked a lot about the future of ACE and what that might look like, you know, 30 years from now when Sarah steps down. And I think we all sort of landed on Sarah has created this legacy of ACE, and in a lot of ways, you are ACE, but ACE will survive when you are done with ACE. And I think that giving ACE the opportunity to purchase Our Lady of the Snows just strengthens that legacy and opens so much more opportunity for someone else to step in to that role and grow ACE like Sarah has done. When I was an employee of ACE, like, people are in offices here, some events are at Our Lady, some events are at the Snow Pine, the Peruvian, and it's feels really scattered, and I think providing ACE with a permanent home really will solidify Sarah's legacy, Elsa's legacy, and let that grow, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Since we were just talking about public comment and written public comment, for those people that submitted written public comment that there's a little checkbox that says part of the meeting minutes. If the person checked that checkbox and wants them part of this, they will be part of this meeting minutes, and so they will become available online when I'm able to draft up all these comments and get it posted. So those will be available if somebody wanted them to be available for everybody.
Yeah,
Sure,
get something.
Sarah has a closing comment.
Not closing comments,
It's okay.
questions. What is the town of Alta's vision for the building?
That it remains a community center.
It exists how it's been existing.
Yeah.
Amongst other possibilities as well.
What are those possibilities?
Well, restrooms, there's all kinds of transition issues, and it also becomes a good use of, I think, taxpayer money, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'd like to save that for when I have something to say. That's okay.
And what is the number that you provided to the diocese that you will be purchasing the building for?
I know you're the
Why would we not disclose the number?
Because the strategy that was discussed, it was an enclosed meeting, and it's potentially a violation of the law and criminal law to reveal that.
At what meeting will this number be disclosed?
That can answer.
Yeah, I think my thought is that it's gonna take us a while for the process all these documents. Yes. And once we do, we're gonna have an open meeting that will make a decision on what we're going to do on this matter, including how much we will offer.
ACES Leaves at Our Lady of the Snows is done on June 30th. What happens on July 1st?
Well, I guess it depends on who owns the building.
I know that a town has to take steps and go slowly. That day is like tomorrow to me. We have June booked. So. Just
Well,
please
as
put
we
that in mind.
stated-
And as well, the Alta Lodge needs to use the building all summer long.
We want it to remain a community center. I believe if it was owned by the town of Alta, all of ACE's events plus would be honored. I thought Connie Marshall's comments were particularly interesting. Connie served as the scheduler for that building. I personally have hosted several events in that building and have loved it and see it as a community center. The lodge uses it for weddings. I'm not suggesting that ACE would not let others participate in using their building, but I think when you look at what a true community center is, it's owned by an entity that allows other community members to utilize it. I believe Connie, you stated that there's a event with the Avalanche team on a very regular basis. And so there are other community needs besides just ACE, which I recognize is the tremendous backbone, and they would be the main utilizer, but we have other community members besides ACE.
So I just wanted to say really quick, like, when I first heard about this back in February, my first gut reaction was, and I know Creighton made a joke about aliens buying the building, but literally my gut reaction was, I don't want some private developer to take Our Lady of the Snows. Like, I would think I was probably in panic mode for probably maybe that whole week where I couldn't even really process that. I mean, the diocese can sell this building to whoever they want to. It is not something that we have control over. And so I freaked out. And my first instinct was that either ACE or the town has to have this building. Like, we have to keep it at a community center. My other thought was that I've been on the council for a while and we have been wanting a community center. And like Sarah has mentioned and others have mentioned, we have gone through numerous planning attempts to try to get as many things into a community center as we can. It turns out that building maybe could have cost somewhere in $20 million range. And it's just, at this point, it's out of the question. I don't know how we could even afford a building like that. So I don't want to lose this building. It has to stay as a community center. The other thing is that I mentioned this before about people being nervous to speak, is that nobody I've talked to or has approached me about this in the last couple of months has ever mentioned, like, you know, being not supportive of ACE, but I have had a couple users worry that they are not ACE. They might want to rent the building for a wedding, they might want to rent, and that's the only thing is, as for me as a council member, I just want to also make sure that the building continues to stay in the use that it is, and that ACE does also provide that to the town. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose all that stuff. And so that's also another hard thing to kind of just make sure. I don't necessarily have that worry that ACE wouldn't do that. I trust that ACE would honor that, but I will just tell you that some people have voiced that that's a concern of theirs. Or like continuing church services. I mean, just different things that are not ACE functions. That's just one of the concerns I have. But again, I personally think ACE would be fine managing those, but I'm just letting you guys know that that's concerns that have been brought to us. And then the only other thing is I just want to make sure ACE is a nonprofit, and I know that they have a donor for purchase of this building, but I also want to make sure that if they do get this building, that they can maintain it and they can do the property taxes and they can afford it. And so I just don't want it to get lost. Again, my gut reaction, I don't want some developer to come in and take that building and build something there. Like, that's would be awful for the community. So for me as a goal, I just want it to continue to be a community center. I mean, at this point, I have gone back and forth on who should own the building. I haven't really completely decided at this point who should own the building, but I just wanted to stay functioning as it was and as is and continue to stay that way. I would really appreciate the comments from ACE's board, that you guys are committed to continuing on the legacy that Sarah has built. Like, she's amazing, and I will be so bummed when she eventually stops doing ACE events because she has crushed it. But I really appreciate hearing from you guys, because that is some fear a little bit, is that ACE won't be around forever. So I just like that, I really appreciate hearing from you guys that was something that helped me a little bit, feel a little bit more comfortable with what the situation is. And I'm sorry about the closed door meeting stuff, that's just kind of how government does, we have to function a little bit. I mean, we had a couple meetings, you know, I again didn't know what I wanted to do for a long time. So it's just kind of the process that we had to go through for some of us. I believe moving forward, all of us want to continue having these open meetings and dialogues, but it's gonna be a little bit of a process for us. Just bear with us a little bit. Government is slow. Again, I've mentioned this before, it's supposed to be methodical. We just want to do what's right for the building, and so we're just gonna make a decision and take our time on it a little bit. And I know Sarah has a deadline for ACE events and the diocese is exiting the building, but we will try our best to make this decision and figure out what's going on in a timely manner, hopefully in the next couple weeks, but just bear with us a little bit.
And I would also like to, two people or several people have mentioned a compromise. And for me, that really tears up my soul. I don't really understand why there's not more of a compromise here. I don't know if we need to bring in a mediator, because everyone in this room wants the same thing. It should be a community center. Why are we fighting about this? Like, it's a community center. So
Well, we're fighting about it because we're bullying the nonprofit. That's why we're fighting about it.
That is an opinion. You should be allowed to speak without interruption. Keep going.
It's okay. I wish that there were other ways. There are many different ways that this project could be funded. Okay, we could still have it ACE's home, and the benefactor could fund it in a different way. There's a way, we talked, Christopher, you mentioned a ROFR, okay? We talked about a ROFR, and in my opinion, we couldn't come to a reasonable ROFR. And so that's a problem from my perspective.
I'm gonna ask you a legal question.
No pressure.
If the town owns the buildings, can the town rent or lease or allow religious services to be conducted there?
Yes,
Okay,
that's the short answer. The longer, more involved answer.
I know, I
If we
married
offer-
a lawyer, I know how long the answer is.
But we're obligated to everyone if we do that.
Correct.
So the long answer is, it has, to Creighton's point,
Yeah,
you
has to
have
be.
to make it open to anybody. The imaginary gay son can have the wedding there.
Yes, which is consistent, I think, with its use for the community, right? Everyone that's in the community has an equal access to use that building.
Okay.
If I could talk about the
Yes.
process.
Sure.
I think. Lee, come on. So. So my name is Cameron Platt. I've worked as the town attorney for about 4 years. I'm obviously a lightweight and an outsider for this. But one of the things I really enjoy about Alta is what a lot of you have mentioned. It's the community, it's the sense of togetherness. And this has been agonizing. I will not lie to you. It's been hard to see. It's hard for me to see accusations against people that are not true. And that I have watched them agonize for hours and hours, late into the night in meetings, to talk about this. And so ask yourself, if somebody's criticizing them for being dishonest, ask yourself if that's consistent with what you've seen over the past, because I had never seen that. And so I'm disappointed with a lot of the accusations. What I want to explain is the process. So normally for people, when they go buy a house, you go look at a house and you walk through it, you talk to the agent, you talk about terms, you figure out kind of what your offer is gonna be. You write an offer and you submit it. And once you submit that offer, they evaluate it, and if they want to accept it, they sign it. And that's the way it works for the rest of the world. Governments cannot function that way. We cannot submit an offer that is binding until it's done in a public meeting. And in that public meeting, you disclose all of the terms that you're gonna make the offer on. And so the net effect of that is that you give away your bargaining advantage. So the law in Utah allows municipalities to meet in a closed meeting and discuss a strategy on how to explore whether or not they can buy a building. That is all we have done. It is not true anywhere close that we have violated the Open Meetings Act. I've spent hours and hours and I've consulted with the town council over and over on this. They have done everything that they can to comply with the law, and they are. So any accusation that they're not is false, and I would suggest it's coming from not a good place. So because we have to operate in that fashion, we have to negotiate, come to the best terms that we think are acceptable, and then we have to bring those terms to the town council. That hasn't happened yet. It cannot happen. So you're accusing these fine folks who volunteer their time on your behalf of doing something that has not occurred. So that is the process. The decision is when you see the terms in a contract, in an open meeting, that's when the offer is binding. And that's when the decision is made. And I think that a lot of the misunderstanding and frankly misrepresentation happen because people don't know that that's the process. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying it's an unusual process and it's a difficult process compared to what everybody's used to. So that's what I want to clarify.
Thank you.
You're up.
Yeah, if
I'm just, my name's Molly Barnes and I have a law question.
Oh,
because.
well, it
yeah,
should be
which is-
directed to
yeah.
Cameron.
What I'm wondering about is I think it's a great question about what the community center would be limited by if the town owned it, or if there really truly are no limits. So I heard your great question about could my theoretical gay son have a marriage in the wedding, but what about pride flags and all that, with the state legislature having just stated what cannot happen in school buildings? How does that impact town buildings that our town council has no control over, that comes from higher down? That's my first question. And the second is, am I correct that right now the diocese does not pay any taxes, any property taxes on it, and the 501c3 nonprofit ACE would not pay any taxes, nor would the town, so they're equal on that level, and there's therefore no, as you said, for ACE to have to pay property taxes. So I just want to confirm that. So those are my two big
Okay, you want
legal
to
questions.
Yeah. So you raise a good point. The legislature this year was particularly active. They did prohibit flags, and there's only an approved list of flags that can be displayed in schools or any government building. I don't know how long that statute's gonna last, just because I feel like that's gonna be an undue restriction on the First Amendment, but somebody's gotta challenge it and it's gotta be challenged, right? So in the meanwhile, that's what the law requires. However, there are mechanisms where you can lease a government building for a time, right, for a rental, something like that. And that person can display speech that the government doesn't necessarily want, right? And so it depends on how we structure that. So the short answer is, under the Constitution, we have to provide equal access to everyone similarly situated. Okay, so if we offer one religious service to a religious faith, then any religious faith gets to have an opportunity to rent within the schedule, under the terms, paying the fee that we charge, et cetera, right? Everybody has to be treated equally. That's the requirement of the Constitution. And so that's what would be applied here. As far as the taxes, yes, we don't pay property taxes because we're exempt as a government entity.
And none of the diocese.
Yeah,
ACE as a 501c3.
I've not ever done nonprofit law, but generally nonprofits don't pay taxes.
Utah Code 59-21101, nonprofits and charitable organizations are eligible to apply to have their real property and personal business property exempt from taxation.
Can I just request that if you're going to speak for my benefit, please, no, it's okay, just step to the podium if you don't want, you figure everybody else, thank you.
Jen, we have somebody else to speak.
Kathy.
I have a question. My name is Kathy Tanzamore, and I am not a resident of Alpha, however, I've spent many years and much time here, skiing, going to ACE activities, working. And the question that I have is, has there been any discussion between the town and ACE about how the building would be used? I mean, everybody in this room knows that ACE has had, if I'm not mistaken, over 150 events in that building just in the last year. I mean, if we were to go back years and years, it would be thousands. And the town didn't sound, when asked, like it has had very many.
activity, events of your own. And then a few minutes ago, I felt like there was a little bit of the town wondering, or possibly questioning if ACE had the building, would this event and that event, and the other event be able to happen? And I feel like I can confidently say, yes, it would. ACE would allow anything that had to do with arts, community, and culture and education. And it also sounded like the town would allow ACE to continue to rent, and so that we can have, so that ACE, no, excuse me, not we, so that ACE can have activity, events and activities there as well. So my question with all that blabber is, has the town had any sort of communication with ACE to ask ACE what their intent is, and ACE to know clearly what the town's intent is for the use of that building?
My answer is there's been no formal communication along those lines, but there has been informal.
So I'm wondering then, in order to make a decision of this magnitude, wouldn't it be important to both parties to understand what the future of that building would look like if the town has it and or if ACE has it?
Yeah, well. And my vision for this is that in an open meeting, we talk about all those kinds of things. And not necessarily what ACE would do with it, but what the town would do it. Because we really, you know, if ACE owns it, the town has essentially no say. But if the town has it, we have to say. So.
Right.
And in such an open meeting, I think we would voice that. I think we would answer questions such as yours. And there'll probably be plenty of them. So
but that's also what this is.
Yeah.
That's happening right now.
Yeah.
You know, all of these people are sharing their inputs, and it's up to us to weigh them and respond as well, which, as Cameron pointed out, and as Elise has mentioned, we haven't had the opportunity to do yet because of the nature of the public inputs we've received. This is the fourth occasion for the public to give us input. In a meeting, they're always welcome to, and we've been receiving a lot of information, but that's what's happening here. And it's an important thing to do.
Can we expect that there will be future open meetings?
yes.
Yes.
To discuss
Yes.
this?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
We'll get rid of another word.
Okay, sure. Let's do that.
We'll go Jim Williams and then Tim Alley.
Hi, Jim Williams, resident of town of Alta, representing Switzerland, just trying to be neutral here. I love you all. I just, in looking at the, like, we paid as a town to have FKK come in and analyze it, and look at that report. This building is doomed. The next one down the street is okay, and the other one has issues as well. It's 3 buildings we have in Alta, and look at this place, I'm like, wow, we can't get fluorescent lights put in, let alone control another building. But I see the sense in buying it for the town. I get it. Transition space. It's sitting there, it's ready to go. We can drop this to the ground, move in there temporarily, etc. For $1,000 a month on the building sites, like we'll have a modular heated, air conditioned space, nicer than this one, to house employees. During a transition, it's never easy making those transitions. But what I don't get is why they have lost sight of the last thing we spent all kinds of money on. And that's this.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, that's this. They did. Indeed or something, did a thing in what, 2020? Remember that, John?
Harris's spaceship.
Yeah, the spaceship. And I mean, maybe we don't need the spaceship, as a community Alta, town of Alta Community Center. I mean, we did it down in Salt Lake on the Natural History Museum. Those guys collected $40 million and said, you know what, hold it. We need 80 to do this thing right. And they waited and they took the patience of the people and they built one of the most iconic buildings in the state of Utah. But it took them not a year and not 5 years, it's been like 20 years. And then when they run back the numbers on what the town's gonna dump into buying a temporary solution. So let's just say it's within 20%, 25% of $1 million. You run that across a 30-year amortization, it's like 2.5 and just thrown away. When we could have just waited, dropped this building, lived tough, shoestrapped the building together, got a place for interrogations, got a place for the fire truck, doesn't exist. Take care of the stuff in a very systematic scenario. But to like expand out into another building, it just seems a little strange as a taxpaying resident of Utah, of Alta and Switzerland. Because once again, I love you all.
Will you say your name just for?
Yeah, sure,
people online?
Thanks. There to be clear, nonprofits can get themselves exempt of the building, so concerns on.
Yeah.
Can the nonprofit afford probably? Can it last afterwards? I look at tenacity in this room and like if Sarah Gibbs unfortunately like had a accident at any time. I think people will step up.
Somebody moved to Switzerland.
If they want to remain neutral, which I do. Thank you.
What's better than?
Okay, any other?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm Mally, I own a couple of small businesses and outfit. And I'm wondering, in your legal closed door meetings, have you been able to derive a number of what you would be able to offer the diocese?
The problem is we can't discuss what was in a closed meeting or it's no longer.
Right, but so when will you be able to disclose that so that people would have an idea?
Yeah, so I would expect that when the council chooses to have an open public meeting to discuss that and vote on it, that's when that would come out.
Are you close to that number?
I don't know, it's up to the council.
Okay.
10 hours.
It's time, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Let's make sure there are no more people. Oh, great.
I got one more thing to say.
All right.
It's not about who's buying it. It's Ace came to you guys in February and shared their vision. And then all of a sudden, you guys deemed, wait a minute. We want to get in competition with them. We want to own it. It's not
Great,
that.
I'm sorry, but we've had a lot of these kind of comments about people accusing us of
I'm
like.
not
coming
accusing, I'm
in.
just saying,
I'm
all of a
just-
sudden, you got identified.
I'm
that-
just saying that we literally just found out in
Sure.
February when
If you
Sarah
wanna
made
finish-
that.
Can I finish, please?
This is your second comment, so I'm
It's
just
okay, I
gonna
mean,
just speak to it a little
okay.
bit, cause
Okay.
it is very
I will
hard to
speak
sit
I will
here.
change the. my
Just let me real
comments.
quickly say, we do volunteer our time here. And it is hard to sit here and like Cameron said, to have you guys accuse us of things when that is not true.
I wasn't
And
accusing.
I just wanna say that I'm fine listening to them and I, like I said, wanna make a really, loving and responsible decision, but this is really hard. And I get that like, you guys are very passionate about it, but this is honestly the second time you're probably coming up here to kind of accuse us of something in our closed door
I don't
meeting,
think
and
I'm-
I'm just kind of, it's really hard.
Okay, well then I'll change this. You didn't know that the building was being sold until it was identified by Sarah to the town council. And then you guys made a decision as to whether or not to enter into purchasing or not. And I think Sarah, in good faith, brought this information and as a way to express, hey, I want to do this for the town. And then another decision, a party decided to participate at other levels.
Okay, anybody else from the community? Yes.
Hi, my name is Julia Mulhern, I'm a member of the community, and I guess my hope is that regardless of what happens with the building, that you guys can see everybody who came to this, and maybe, moving forward as a town, support community efforts, to the best of your ability and make that a real priority of your legislation. Cause as a community member, I know a lot of youth faces. We don't often have a chance to interact with you folks, and as community members, I would love to see new sand at the volleyball court and a pit toilet that we could use in the summer and more third-party spaces. And this is a room that, I mean, belongs to the town. Like, can we have more transparency and more kind of spirit of working together? And I would love to see personally ACE use the building, because I would love to see you guys put funds towards other stuff that would often, like, that would additionally help the community and support ACE in that effort. Thank you.
Anyone else from the community want to make a statement? Because I'm gonna say now it's our turn, and I'm gonna turn it to John first.
I'm happy to defer.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of housekeeping things first, you know, I have full confidence that ACE can be trusted to administer the building appropriately. I have no concern that the people will be excluded from having events there by ACE. I think ACE can be trusted to operate the building appropriately. I think there are a great many other needs for the town. I think this is an inappropriate use of our precious money. I started the day by reading the FFKR report again. Chris, you'll be happy to see it. I've got my FFKR report here, but there's a lot of meat on that bone. And some of it's like safety related, some of it's just prolong the longevity of the building. We'll have no trouble finding other uses for this money. And some of the other uses are pretty darn compelling. Including, we have a tremendous need to establish a marshal's office, stabilize Alpha Central. You know, the best recommendation in this report is a very comprehensive renovation and upgrade of Alpha Central. We don't even have a number for that. I'm gonna tell you that number is gonna be bigger than the price tag for buying OLS. If we really wanna get into other avenues, you know, we could also expand our municipal services. We could talk about, you know, trash removal if we wanted to, you know, how nice would it be to have trash removal?
Nice.
Pretty darn nice. So, you know, I think that I sort of bifurcated the process or the thought for me, the decision. I think we could buy the building. I think we could squeak it out. It's gonna leave us hamstrung with respect to available cash, but I think we could close the transaction and make it through. The question is, should we, you know, is it the right use of our funds? And the answer for me is it's not. I think that it would be better for us to step back and let ACE buy it, and for us to focus on the meat and potatoes of being a town. Finish, you know, continue to work toward new buildings, take care of the marshal's office situation, stabilize Alpha Central, deal with the life safety recommendations from the FFKR report. I think those are town functions. Buying the community center because we want to control it when there's no other use or repurpose allowed, that just seems like not the right thing for us to do with our money. And then separating all of those kind of issues, financial issues, from doing the right thing. I think just fundamentally doing the right thing is teeing ACE up to flourish and thrive over the next 10, 15, 20 years. And I think the way for us to do that is to support ACE's purchase, to nurture ACE, to be there when ACE needed our help. And, you know, that's the legacy I'm interested in, is one where, you know, ACE came to us and we did the right thing. And the right thing to me is to let ACE proceed with the purchase of the building and continue to flourish and continue to be the anchor of our community. So my intention is to vote no on the purchase of the building. Thanks, John.
You two have anything else to add before I speak? Okay.
Can I just ask one parliamentary question is, when the board does decide to vote on it.
Could you come up front so we just have
What is the percentage you need? Is it 50% of quorum?
3 votes.
Three votes.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to know. And how many total members?
Why?
Okay,
We're all
3
sitting
or
here,
5.
Paul.
Yeah, we're all here.
This is us.
This is us.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a number of things to share because I feel I have to, because I want to address so many things that have come. This is our only opportunity to share, or first opportunity to share with you. There have been 4 public opportunities where we have received information publicly. The February meeting, March meeting, the April meeting, and this meeting, which is great. As Elise pointed out, this is great fun on this side of the table, but we need to hear what you have to say. I missed your name, the young lady sitting next to you.
Oliver, she works.
Megan, yep, no, I know where she works, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. So, because we're all sharing information and there's a lot of personal stories here, I'm gonna share some of mine with you as well. And then I'm gonna address what is core to what we're talking about here, if that's okay. If I get a little long, you can walk out, but this is our ability to share with you where we're coming from. And I can only share my opinions, which I think are based on logic and reason, but I'm gonna start with a different story. I'm intimately familiar with mental health issues and suicide. It's a very personal issue for me. And I am a huge fan of Sarah. I consider her a friend, depending on where this lands. I don't know how she'll feel about me, but I'm gonna do what I think is appropriate. That's my pledge. But I am such a fan of ACE. And is there anybody here or online that is not a rabid fan of ACE? Anyone? Okay, we are all together. Russian election, everybody voted the right way. And I'm not trying to make light of it all, but it's an emotional thing, but it's important. I'm here on town council because a lot of people asked me to leave. Grom, if he's still here, said, don't do it, you're not gonna enjoy it. Man. But my purpose is to contribute, and I hope that I am, and I will tell you, I am incredibly proud of the town's conduct and of the people that are doing this, because they are bending over backwards to ensure that you, Sarah, and ACE, and the community, because as the last lady just finished, maybe she left, we're the community too, man. This is my community. It's why I'm here. I feel really privileged and important to be part of that. So that's, and I don't want to bog down on that. I'm also glad that we've got ACE board members here. So I'm going to go down some of the questions I have, which is why I was asking people's names, because I want to address your question so you can understand where we're coming from, because you need to hear the other side. Everything we've heard has been one-sided, except for the people who are intimidated to come in front of all of you. They don't want to reveal themselves, and I've had some of those conversations too. Sarah, you are always gracious, because you said, like, we're here to support counter opinions. So a few things that came right off the bat. First of all, I'm going to tell you, the church was decisive in their choice. It was not some, do we think it's one better than the other? They believed the town was the best choice. If you want to get into their privileged information, you need to engage with them. They have had follow-on engagement, and I'm disappointed to say that people have threatened and accused them of terrible things. This is not the papacy, this is not the Inquisition. I don't think that's right, and they did it on behalf of ACE, not the town. And I think that's reprehensible. They're trying to make the best value judgment that they can. I'm not here to, if they had come back the next day, which none of us expected them to do, as John mentioned, I think the town council meeting, well, this thing could go on for 60 days. 12 hours later, man, they sent a letter to ACE and a letter to us saying this is our decision. We were not prepared for that to happen like that. All we can do is react. But their decisions are privileged. I would suggest you talk to them in a polite way and ask them why that they did what they did. There was a point brought up about the legacy of the leaders who ran this town before and what would they say? And I think that's an important question. It's not as important as this question. What do we do in the future going forward to best position the town for facilities? We have a responsibility, as Grom said, we do public service We do public utilities, we do public safety. Those are our responsibilities. We are making these decisions in conjunction with the marshal's office and the staff, who are such a great group of people. It is the reason I ran for town council, was my opportunity to serve those folks. I have the highest opinion of Jen, Chris, Molly, Brooke, and Mike's entire team. I will, going back, so bear with me, because you asked the questions and I'm answering to the best of my ability. And I was cautioned by Carolyn, who's very wise as a doctor, said, I'm a very passionate person. I like telling stories. I write books for a living. She's like, try and be calm. I think I'm about 40%. I'm doing my best, but this is from the heart, and these are answers to your tough questions. This is why we're all in anxiety in here. I have not slept for 4 nights, and I'm used to not sleeping. We have to think about the future, and a lot of what we're talking about in the future, I think, is how do we continue to prepare best infrastructure and services for the onslaught of people that continue to come up Canyon. We're gonna get more, and we're gonna get more. And we're doing the best we can to plan for 50 years from now. I felt the reasons why, which we shared with you publicly in a letter drafted by Jen, saying, here's the pros and the cons. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. Here's what we think of the reasons why, many of which I felt very strongly about, and here are the cons. So we are sharing with you the best that we could in that process. But it needed to be a closed door meeting, because you cannot ask two parties who are in fact bidding on a property. You can't say, well, what's your limit and what are your terms? Thanks. You can't do that. And you can't expect the town, who does represent you, we're not the enemy, we are also you, to do it that way. As Cameron said, legally, it's the right way to go. So I thought there were more of those reasons. Aubrey, are you still here? Yes, okay, that was very well spoken. One of the things you said is there is no other space. Exactly. The spaceship 747 footprint that the last administration here did all the studies for, that thing costs a lot. The cost of this building to the town or ACE is much cheaper than building anything. That's one of the reasons why it's important. So I would argue, I think for us, either party, I think that's why it has to be purchased. To Elisa's point of, hey, it needs to stay in the community. Evan, you said ACE came back with an additional price because of the town of Alta that you put in a second letter of intent. That's not because Alta did anything. We only submitted one thing. So if you made a change, if ACE made a change, it wasn't by anything we did, because it was behind a closed door meeting. Something else must have caused that, not us, just so you know. We have brought this up before, Evan brought this up, I wrote something down here I can't read, so I guess I want to address that, but because I was writing furiously. Land given to the town to underneath that, it is a good real estate investment for all of us, including ACE, and I've got something I'm going to share at the very end on why I feel that way and how we can support ACE. The US Forest Service ultimately probably will, and we will pursue getting the land underneath that, making it a highly valuable piece of community center property for many things we haven't even imagined. ACE is a subset of Alta and Alta's community, just as Alta Historical Society is, just as Friends of Alta is, just as Death to All Gondolas in the future, if it comes into existence, is another thing that could be here. We have a responsibility to support that. I think the town community center allows us to do for these entities that come into existence, because it is our responsibility. You as board members on ACE and you as a director don't have that responsibility. Would you be gracious? I have no doubt. But that is our responsibility, to take care of those people and Creighton's imaginary son. That's what we're here to do. And I believe in that so strongly. That's why I'm here. Skip some of these. Grom said some stuff, but I've never liked Grom. Creighton, you brought up a comment at the last town council meeting when you had some public input about restrooms. For anyone who was involved in the last election, my platform was, I want restrooms because I'm tired of people crapping on my mountain. Now, I was not planning for this building. It landed on us like a ton of bricks at the town council meeting in February, and we're scrambling as fast as we can. But I'll tell you something that I did based on your comment. On the next storm, I was going up and down the town here, watching what the backcountry skiers were doing. I will tell you, 21 people were standing between Our Lady of the Snows and Alta Central. And one of the things I always have this conversation with Mike Morey is how many presents people leave behind for them on the mountain, both as a message and because they don't have any consideration. So I happen to feel that this town building, because I believe it should belong to the town, if you haven't figured it out, everybody knows my position on it, becomes the opportunity for pennies on a dollar to build out greater restrooms that people can use, so they're not crapping behind Alta Central. I feel very strongly about that. I went and skied with Mike Mon today to talk again about possibly doing restrooms somewhere else. I don't believe in pit toilets. My experience with outhouses is guys will pee on the outside of them before they go inside. We need real facilities. I think this is a partial, not a great answer, but it's better than the 21 people I saw standing there using the mountain. Am I doing okay on the motion?
Yeah.
Jim, you brought up a great point here as well, Switzerland. I appreciate that very much. One of the things that you pointed out about the building was, okay, is it a legacy building? Is it going to stand another 50 years? If we're very concerned about ACE and ACE's limited resources after John's very generous gift, you're putting them in the same position by them buying the building. If it's not a building that's going to last forever, who better to take care of it but a town? It is part of our public service, public utility, and community responsibilities. Finally, as I think I said this before, but I'm so proud of the vast majority of the people that have been involved in this on this side of the equation. I believe there's another win-win. One of the great things, and I'm not here to tell ACE what to do. I was cautioned off saying this by my very wise counsel. I won't name them, but a staff member who's very wise. One of the things I feel that might be a win-win for us here, if we just open our aperture a little bit more, that would allow ACE to be more effective, to help reach more people who are struggling, because I think it's the most important thing that you do. Imagine if ACE withdrew their LOI, but the church already said they're not accepting it, just so you know, that was the decision. But John's generous gift now goes to the services that is the core of what that community and you board members are here to do, to service all of us. That money would go so much further to the spirit of the town, to the spirit of that building. I believe we can help ACE because if we are the property owner, we have a much more vested interest, as we've all acknowledged and all of your comments have said. The church doesn't even come up here. The people that are involved in the decision by the diocese, not one of them have ever seen the building. But they make the decision. So imagine what we can do for you, because we are losing sleep over how best to serve it. Some people think we should buy it, some people don't. But if we do buy it, and you can get John's gift, I don't know any of these terms, you will do so much more good with however much money that is. And that's what I want to have happen. It's not the reason I feel the way I do. Those are all contained in the other long list. I apologize for the length. Hopefully I get a C+ for a grade. But I appreciate all of you coming here and staying for the course. And I guess one more final conclusion is disagreement is not a bad thing. People who are civil and play by the rules, there is nothing wrong with disagreement. It's how things get done. And then, you know, democracy is the worst form of government, except for all others. That's my experience in a lot of places. Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you.
Dan, how do you value the town spending the money on the building?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Versus AMO
Yeah.
or Alta Central,
That's a
which
great
I see
question.
as higher priorities. How do you make that value choice? Because I think it really is one or the other.
Okay, so more disagreement. I don't know. I don't think it's binary. I don't think it's one or the other. I will say, I will go out on a limb and say, I am the most vocal advocate for the primacy of the needs of the Alta Marshal's office on this town council. I'm the most outspoken on it. Okay, thanks. And so I would not do something that I felt would compromise it, but we can get this building for the town, for ACE, bring us all together for pennies on the dollar without having to buy any property underneath it that we can probably get for free from the government, much cheaper than any other building we might do. Now, And you're gonna have.
But there's only so much money, and it becomes a question of choice.
That's the second part of my answer. One of the things that I think you brought up, and you did a great job of articulating at the last town council meeting, is we can do this, but it's a stretch and it leaves us thin. But I don't think the numbers are that thin. And I'm pointing at Chris, you can't see me pointing at him.
He's using.
Do you see me? I mean, Chris, are we in a better position than we might have discussed at the last, do we have more capital in order to buy this building? And I would also argue, because of the great stewardship of the previous town council and the mayor, and I'm not kidding you, Jen and Chris's ability to run the town and the changes that have happened to the town, as I've been watching town council meetings for 10 years now, has positioned us to maybe do this. But Chris, where are we, for the public now, and there's a lot of people here, can we share that information, please?
I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, Dan. I apologize.
Yeah, the
Are you
question
asking
is,
what the,
how much does it drain our capital? John's point, which was really valid, was,
I can give you the capital projects fund balance.
Okay.
1.7.
so, because what John said on last week was 1.2, if I remember, that's what was said. So we actually have more money, just so you know, people, we have more money in the bank than you think. So it doesn't take us down to the bottom of the barrel. It uses about 65%. Someone else do the public math.
But that's what that little exhibit that I passed out documents is, we have a bunch of uses we wanna do that I think Chris is in agreement on, that are from the FFKR report. And this purchase, and I think after we do those, we're gonna be down in the $200,000-$400,000 range.
I would also add that Jen presented some prior fundraising information that suggested that the community was very interested in a community center. And that there has been prior polling done, whether there are community members that would be willing to donate to a community center. So I don't think it's so black and white that the towns like using all their money for something. I think that we would thoughtfully ask to bring the community together. So I think we do have other benefactors in our community.
It's another great point for all of you to consider. Doesn't mean you're gonna change your mind. But these are all valid points, and you've been waiting for these answers, and like.
Yeah, I think that's a little smoke and mirrors, but you know, if you can bake that cake, let's go for it, but I don't see it that way.
That's okay, I don't think that's a fake at all, just so you know.
I think it would help that if the town, I've seen zero financial analysis from the town regarding this purchase, zero. And it seems a little backward to me that we would be so far in the process, so far down the line in terms of the letter of intent and you know, trying to push to buy it, without having thought through the financial implication really at all. And I think that some thoughtful analysis from the town, financial analysis would be helpful.
I think it's a good point, I just disagree. I think we've had some of that, I think we've had adequate enough, given the timeline we're under, as Sarah pointed out.
I haven't seen any.
Can I finish just a second? As Sarah pointed out, we're up against some timelines that are scheduling and logistical in nature, and so it's compressing what we're doing. And that's why we're all here. And again, it's impressive. I came to town council meetings for 10 years and I never saw like 2 or 3 people, or sometimes 8.
Well, it's overwhelming public support for ACE, I think is one of the things you have to recognize about this.
That's so true. Absolutely.
Overwhelming public support for allowing ACE to buy the building.
Well,
And I think you can rephrase it any way you want, but that's the reality of the situation. It's the reality of the comments. Yeah, there were some thoughtful comments that I thought that were dissenting, but still it's overwhelming public support for allowing ACE to buy the building. And you know, it's like a teenager at the car dealership wanting the Camaro when he's 16. We're like, oh, we gotta own this building. But we just haven't thought it through in anything like a prudent, financially disciplined manner. I care what position it's gonna leave us in financially 2 years and 3 years and 4 years down the road. And are we gonna be able to meet our much more important obligations, like to the people living in Alta Central, to secure their building, and to Mike Morey establish a new marshal's office. And I see them as mutually exclusive.
Yep, and I don't see them as mutually exclusive. One of the great things that happened in a public meeting, and if you haven't visited, I mentioned this the other town council meeting, at the town's public retreat, we had some talks about the best way to fund and resource and move forward strategically in order to do the kinds of things that I happen to think the town needs to continue to do. To John's point, which I don't disagree with, is the Alta Marshal's office and how we go about that. You know what? We have not solved all of those, but I really appreciate Craig Highmark as the treasurer to come in and say, here are some things that we can do strategically and allow us to move forward. And it's no pressure, buddy, but I think you should run for one of these offices when we have an election. And so we don't know all the answers. I can't answer all of John's questions, but the thing is, John can't answer them all either. And so we've got to continue to work our way through this, plan as best as we can, and this was not planned for, everybody. This fell out of the sky. John knew about it in December because, as Sarah said, they were making these conversations and talking about it with the diocese. I didn't know about this till the day before the February town council meeting, and all I can do is act on the things that I do know within the letter of the law. And anyway.
Yeah, you know, I took the time to develop an exhibit. I'm not saying this exhibit is truth, but I passed them out today. I think this gives you some good idea of where we are financially. I encourage us to use this as a starting point.
I'd agree with that. I think that's, thanks,
You're
John.
welcome.
I just haven't seen it, so.
I'm sorry, I thought I handed them out when it came in.
No. So as always, we can only act on information that's provided. This is great information, but as it's the rest of the town council, I didn't get this till now.
More homework to be done.
Yeah, late breaking news, this just in, you know.
And this is my quick and dirty analysis, you know, from my hospital bed. So, but I'm not saying that this is, you know, absolute truth and there's a certain amount of wiggle room on some of the things. But this is my cut at where I think it's gonna be. I'm super open to anybody else's financial analysis.
Can I just add?
Would love to see it.
John, I rely on you as the best fiscal brain in the town council.
Kind of you.
No, it happens to be true. Everybody, I think it's generally recognized. You pick up things that other people don't, and you have the opportunity or you have the ability to put that stuff out. Healthy disagreement is,
yeah,
where I came from, man, we disagreed about a lot of things.
Seems like we're reaching the point where maybe we should have a little break or move on to the next
Oh,
thing.
this is great. We should go another 2 hours.
Yeah, no, I think we're at a point where, you know, I'm respecting what you're saying, I'm hearing what you're saying, and maybe that exhibit will, you know, mean something to you or sink in, and look forward to some further analysis from Jen and Chris.
Yeah, I think our break should not be a few minutes, but a few days.
Yeah.
I was wondering if, Sarah, I know there's been all this like verbal discussion around, but I think maybe, and I don't know if you're gonna wanna do this and put this in writing, but I know that you verbally have like stated your intentions and all this stuff with the building, but I think if you wanted to draft a letter to us as well, to kind of put some of the stuff that your vision in 10 years and what you wanna do with the building and all that stuff, I think that'll also, you know, help all of us if we can get that, you know, the staff can send that to us and then we can kind of have it. Cause I think it's just, I think like you guys have said, it's both ways, you know, the town and the ACE. And like I said, I mean, seriously, my still gut reaction is that someone else is gonna get this building besides either the town or ACE. Like I'm still deathly afraid that like, you know.
That's not gonna happen. Very clear.
Yeah, and the land use will not let anybody build a retail store, a restaurant. It has like a half a parking spot. So luckily for all of us, that won't happen. That was a fear of mine for a really long time.
Yeah, and that's been, I mean, that's kind of where I've lived for 2 months now, but
I already
yeah.
actually have that started.
Perfect.
I
think
have
that'll
a 10-page document of everything I've done. I'm happy to share with you.
Whatever you wanna share, I think that, you know, in the next couple days until we have whatever next meeting is.
Yeah.
I think that would be great to like, I mean, there's been, like I said, some fears about it have been choice, and I think that just getting that from ACE would be really great too.
And the same on for you guys.
Totally.
I expressed my fears to Roger yesterday. We had a great meeting.
That's nice.
And, you know, he was like, wow, we didn't know that, and, you know, to me, I'm like, well, why wouldn't you know that? And you guys are like, well, why wouldn't you know that? So, you know, I really appreciate Jen and Chris making this meeting happen in a very fast, timely manner. Jen went out of her way and Chris went out of his way to make this happen.
I'd like to continue this up.
Yeah.
And say, the next meeting we have is an open meeting. Where
Yes.
we will discuss this and we'll presumably come to a decision. I mean, there are really only two possible outcomes, that is, it's, well, it's a building or we own it. And
I think,
that's-
what if we give this a week or so?
Yeah,
Let
that's
the-
what I'm
Let the
thinking.
ski area close, let all the festivities go by.
Right.
And let's maybe do another work session, and then our next
Yeah.
town council meeting's on the 14th, so if we could do another work session before then. Which also obviously opens the public and
Right.
allows for public discussion, I think I would be open to doing that, if that's available on other people's calendars.
That's the kind,
Yeah.
the nature of the condominium.
And I guess I would encourage members of the public to reach out to us individually. I would really love the opportunity to talk to anybody and cause I really think that there are some true misunderstandings out there it really wrecks my soul. I truly have lost so much sleep over this and it really, like, I want more than anything to support ACE, and so I'd really love to hear from you very personally, and so. Please feel free to communicate with me directly.
Ditto, but give me a day, would you?
I'm okay,
Could I float out one idea that maybe we could think about as we go home?
Okay.
What would you think about a situation where we proceeded with the town buying the building? But then the town did a long-term master lease to Ace, like I'm talking about like 30-year master lease to Ace. And let Ace run the building. And I think this could be a reasonable compromise. The town would own the building physically, would master lease it to Ace. Perhaps Ace would use its funding to reimburse the town for the cost of the purchase. So the town wouldn't be out any money for having bought the building. The town then turns around and master leases the building to Ace for 30 years. And Ace runs the building for 30 years.
And town council
on top of
serves
that-
on ACE's board so that we have some compromise or some situation so that so that members of the community feel like they were able to do non-ACE related events, or so perhaps the town.
But I think
understood ACE
that's
better.
easily written in, but to your point, John, I think the other part of that is best of both worlds is, because I do feel strongly about this. The Forest Service is not gonna give land under a building to a private entity. Maybe they will, maybe some, some magic thing.
They did drop a lot.
Okay, don't shoot the guy who's only been here for a year and a half. I don't know everything. But I do know going forward, in this current environment with government tumultuousness, we're more likely to get the land under it. And I think what that does is it solves multiple problems that lead to not just a compromise, but a pretty good solution.
Yeah, and we wouldn't let
I'm just
that
talking
disturb the master lease, you know,
Oh, yeah,
I would only
it
be in
doesn't change
favor of it
anything.
if it was truly a master lease. Where Ace was in control of the building.
Cameron, can a town do something like that, a
Yeah.
master lease? Okay.
Yeah, it happens a lot
Okay.
for, like rifle ranges, for parking lots, for like the municipality owns the land and they lease it to somebody for a long period of time. I think it can't be longer than 50 years, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I don't think we can see past 50 years. So that's kind of my horizon for strategic planning is 50 years.
But it would be a lot like, for Ace, it would be a lot like they own the building because the lease would go for so long. But yet, the town actually would own the building.
And I think, John, to your point too, and as you appropriately acknowledge the overwhelming desire for people to see Ace own the building, I think it comes to that point where it's basically like ownership.
Right, being the leasee on a 30-year lease is an awful lot like owning the building.
Yeah.
And
But
it
still-
takes the conflict of, it takes the choice out of what do we do with our money? Because if you granted that master lease, Ace could reimburse the town for the purchase. And so wouldn't be using town funds that should be going to the AMO or the Alta Central.
And I think you can add something else to that too, which is a right of first refusal from the town to ACE as well, something that could
But
be.
if the town ever decided to
On
sell
top
it,
of that, it becomes another positive thing for ACE to eventually own it. Should Alta go to Switzerland or back?
I wasn't sure that we would get to the point where suggesting a long-term master lease was appropriate, but I think we got to that point.
Did Sarah, do you have, I mean, we're talking about you in the third person, you wanna come up and?
My lovely founder, helps me
Was
in
it-
town.
Oh, I don't think you have to worry about that.
Otherwise, Ace can't do
Well, the
that,
reason that it would make sense to have ACE reimburse the town is so that then the town could charge no rent. Because it wouldn't be in it at anything, you know what I mean? So the rent could be $1 a year for 30 years. Because ACE will have reimbursed the town for its costs at the beginning.
I think my only fear on that is, upkeep. Like you're talking about the bathrooms, like just to make these public bathrooms, it's a major overhaul. You
I
have to find
understand that.
storage for the
I understand
subfloor,
that.
the shovels.
He's
a
truly
few
the
other
bathroom guy of our
But,
council.
but we
Yeah,
haven't had,
but
but we haven't had time, we
How
can't
many
possibly have a
times have
plan
you
for
been in
that
our
yet.
ladies'
What's that?
How many times have you been in our ladies' bathrooms?
Only a handful.
I've probably been in the bathroom more times than I want to like guys.
But I would also,
Connie
but Sarah,
No.
I would
But-
offer, that's because people don't know about it, if we change that, make it a deliberate plan. Stop here, like a Beetlejuice sign from a movie, and the red snake's waiting there, I think people will know.
It has to go to the town offices too, there's this, but I don't wanna get into contentious thing right now, I'm just saying, that is something I believe we should definitely talk about, and see the pressures on each side. Because ACE can't take a lot of pressure,
Well, I'm not saying that bathrooms are a part of why we would give it to you, I mean, that's a different dynamic.
as long as we don't have to like put in new patio and stairs.
It's hard for the leasing to make capital improvements.
No, that's right.
So we
Well,
have
but
to
the
study
town-
that issue
the
and come up
town-
with a solution.
But I think the
But I
town
call that
should do that.
I call that a detail.
I would too, because I think, in my opinion, it's still a responsibility of the town, and I think it is our responsibility if we did a long-term lease for ACE. For the town to own maintenance on the building, because we're the landowner, and that's what public dollars should be for, I think.
This is a very nice attempt at, successful program.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to,
Yes.
I have to go to another meeting. I just have one death, Connie Marshall.
Yeah, Connie.
I have a deadline that, I have not been able to make any reservations past May 31st.
Jen, can
And I don't get any reimbursements from the diocese for all the utilities and all the bills and everything. My plan is, I'm gonna try to pay them through June 30th, but I've gotta turn off all of the utilities, and I have an agreement with ACE that we signed last May 30th or June. I have an active lease for her until June 30th, so that's why I'm gonna keep. But I have not been able to make any, so I don't have any income coming in about it.
You said June, you said end of June? When
May
you-
31st, they just forbade me.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
all right, I think we're done. Okay, let me.
But Sarah,
let me
I-
say this.
Oh, wait, hold on,
Sarah,
hold on.
take your question.
If there's one thing that I think everybody will sign up for, is that we all love ACE and we all love Sarah.
Yeah.
You want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Okay, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
I second that motion, all in favor? Aye. It's adjourned. Well done.
Yes, good.